My name is Rebecca Smith. I'm 32 years old, and I married my husband, Michael, 3 years ago in the spring. Our marriage is strong, and we are especially close to Michael's younger sister, Emily. We don't just get along, we're like real sisters. This story centers on a man named Daniel, the man Emily would later marry. Michael and I had been together for over 10 years, long before we officially tied the knot. During that time, Emily grew up right in front of us. In many ways, we were like her second set of parents. We always wanted her to be happy and did everything we could to support her. So when Emily told us she'd received a marriage proposal and wanted to introduce her fiancé to us, she said it with a shy smile. "I want to introduce my fiancé to you both, my second parents." That moment meant everything to us. The little girl we loved like a daughter was building her own future, and our hearts were filled with pride and happiness. Then the day finally came. Emily arrived with Daniel, her chosen partner. He looked to be around my age, maybe 32, and about 5 years older than Emily. I remember thinking she must like older men. He had a solid build and a calm, confident presence, and at first glance, he seemed dependable. But something felt off. I noticed Daniel kept glancing at me, not once or twice, several times. It was subtle, but unmistakable. I wondered if I had something on my face, or if my clothes looked strange. I quietly checked myself, but everything seemed fine. When our eyes briefly met, he quickly looked away, as if he'd been caught. Michael and I exchanged a glance but decided not to dwell on it. We introduced ourselves properly and sat across from Emily and Daniel at the table. Michael smiled warmly and said the usual words. "Please take good care of my little sister." Then, turning to Emily, he added gently, "I'm trusting you to him." The atmosphere softened, and the initial tension eased. A little while later, Michael asked a question out of curiosity. "Daniel, may I ask where you work?" Daniel straightened his back slightly, clearly proud of what he was about to say. "You might have heard of it. I work at Tay Company. It's growing very fast these days." "The Tay Company?" Michael asked. "The game development company?" "Yes," Daniel replied. "I joined last year, but I didn't leave my previous job because I was unhappy. Tay Company approached me directly. They recognized my skills, so you could say it was a promotion, and I didn't start at the bottom." Michael and I both widened our eyes. Tay Company was extremely well known in the industry. Daniel noticed our reaction and seemed pleased, his confidence growing. "That's why you can trust me with Emily," he continued. "I'm moving up quickly. My salary will rise fast, and I'll advance faster than most people. You don't need to worry." I was honestly stunned. Something about his story made me uneasy, but I brushed the feeling aside. After all, he was Emily's fiancé, and he sounded convincing. As the conversation continued, we asked how they met. They explained they'd been introduced through a mutual friend. Daniel didn't like matchmaking events, and Emily hadn't been actively looking either, but she agreed to meet him. "He always makes me smile," Emily said softly, "even when he's clumsy. It's kind of cute." Listening to them, their affection was obvious. It was sweet, almost warm enough to forget everything else. Almost. As they were preparing to leave, talking about bringing rice and gifts next time, Daniel suddenly stepped closer to me while Emily was distracted. "Do you not remember me?" he asked quietly. I froze. "I'm sorry," I said, tilting my head. "Do you really not remember me?" he asked again, his tone uncertain. I searched my memory, but nothing came up. I didn't recall any close acquaintance named Daniel, certainly not one who would speak to me so casually. Seeing my confusion, he let out a small sigh. "Let's exchange contact information," he said, "and tell Michael later. I forgot to exchange numbers with him." His sudden familiarity unsettled me, but I didn't want to cause a scene in front of Emily, so I agreed. Later, before I could message him myself, Daniel texted first. "I'm surprised the girl who used to sit quietly in the corner of the classroom in elementary school got married before me. Your face hasn't changed much. I recognized you right away." My chest tightened. Elementary school was something I tried not to think about. I had been bullied relentlessly, and those memories still hurt. After moving away, I met Michael, built a new life, and left all of that behind. I replied carefully, asking what he meant, and made it clear Michael was aware of our messages. Then Daniel sent another message. "Do you remember being called PE Girl back then?" That nickname hit me like a slap. It was a cruel label given to me because I came from a single-parent household. Rumors spread, adults whispered, and children followed. Eventually, my mother decided it was best to move away. I took a deep breath and replied calmly, "Please watch what you say. You are my sister-in-law's fiancé. Nothing more. Don't bring up things that don't make sense." After that, he stopped messaging me. Michael, however, had already noticed something was wrong. His face darkened as I told him. "What is wrong with that guy?" he said angrily. "Does he really think it's okay to talk like that to you? Bringing up elementary school like it's nothing? He's marrying my sister, and he talks to you like this?" Seeing Michael so upset, I tried to calm Michael down, repeating softly, "Take it easy. Take it easy." But even as I said the words, unease tightened in my chest. That night, I called my mother and asked her to find an old class photo from my elementary school years. I needed to know, was there really a boy named Daniel back then? She found it almost immediately. After a brief pause, she said quietly, "Rebecca, wasn't this Daniel the one who bullied you the most?" The memories I had buried came rushing back all at once. To be certain, I asked her to send me the photo. When I looked at it, I finally understood why I hadn't recognized him. The boy in the picture was thin and sharp-eyed. The man I'd met was heavier, broader, almost unrecognizable. But it was him. Without a doubt. A few months passed after that uneasy realization. Then, unexpectedly, Emily called me. "Rebecca, we still haven't received your RSVP," she said. "Are you and Michael coming to the wedding?" I froze. "What wedding invitation?" I asked honestly. "We never received one. We were waiting for it." Emily sounded genuinely shocked. "I sent it." "I'm sure I did. Maybe it got lost. I'll bring it to you myself tomorrow." The next day, she handed us the invitation in person. Michael and I accepted without hesitation, completely unaware of what that day would turn into. No one could have predicted what was coming. On the wedding day, Emily looked breathtaking, dressed in pure white. She looked almost unreal, like someone who deserved nothing but happiness. I hugged her tightly, tears in my eyes, wishing her a future filled with love. That illusion shattered almost instantly. Daniel suddenly pointed directly at me, his voice sharp enough to cut through the room. "Why are you here?" he demanded. "I didn't invite you." The guests fell silent. It became painfully clear, he had deliberately made sure Michael and I never received the invitation. Then he went further. "This woman grew up with only her mother," he said loudly. "When life got hard, she ran away, probably had money problems. Now she's married to a rich man and thinks life is easy. She's living in a fantasy." I felt Michael stiffen beside me, his hand clenching into a fist. I touched his arm gently, signaling him to stay calm. Daniel wasn't finished. "I work at a top company," he continued arrogantly. "Are you planning to use your position as my sister-in-law to get money from me after I marry Emily?" Murmurs spread through the crowd. His friends looked shocked, but also entertained, as if they shared his twisted assumptions. I stood up and walked to a staff member, asking for the microphone. Daniel looked pleased. He probably expected tears, panic, a public breakdown. Instead, I spoke calmly. "It's fascinating," I said evenly, "that someone who can't even recognize the president of his own company calls himself elite." The room went dead silent. "If you truly want to cut ties with me," I continued, "then tomorrow morning, I'll be waiting for you in the president's office. We'll follow proper HR procedures." I handed back the microphone and returned to my seat without another glance at him. Michael stood up immediately and headed for the exit. Moments later, Emily followed. Daniel panicked. "Wait," he called after her. "Why are you leaving too? I'm just ending things with her. That shouldn't affect us, right?" Emily turned around slowly and looked at him with cold clarity. "You really don't know Rebecca at all," she said. "She's the CEO of Tay Company. I respect her and admire her deeply. I won't forgive you for humiliating her." Her voice didn't shake. "This engagement is over. You've ruined today. Be prepared to face the consequences." Daniel stood there, stunned. Emily calmly spoke with the venue staff, changed out of her wedding dress, and addressed the guests. "The banquet is cancelled," she said. "Please stay only if you wish to share a meal. The wedding will not proceed. This will never happen again." She placed full responsibility on Daniel, clearly and publicly. The next morning, I kept my word. I waited for him in the president's office, flanked by 2 security staff members. When Daniel entered, his confidence evaporated almost immediately. He didn't even greet me, an obvious sign he never understood professionalism to begin with. "There's no way," he muttered. "You can't really be the president." "If you had checked the company website," I replied calmly, "you'd already know the answer." He had nothing to say. "I'm terminating your contract," I told him. He panicked. "You can't do that over a misunderstanding. I'll report this." I slid his resume across the desk. "You falsified your education," I said, "and listed skills you don't possess: Excel, video editing, all false." His face drained of color. "Providing false information is grounds for immediate termination," I continued. Everything he'd claimed before unraveled. Take company doesn't recruit casually. I personally interviewed candidates, and I had no memory of him. He joined through standard hiring, started at entry level, and never advanced because he lacked the skills he bragged about. I had given him chances. He remained lazy, arrogant, and complacent. Now, with no engagement and no justification, there was no reason to protect him. Since he'd worked less than 6 months, there was no severance. "Can't you help me?" As an old friend, he begged. I looked at him steadily. "I don't see any reason to maintain a relationship with you." Security escorted him out. Later, I learned he tried to rely on his father financially, but history repeated itself. Years earlier, my mother had sued for defamation. Daniel's mother was involved. Compensation had already been paid once. This time, his father refused. He cut him off completely. Daniel disappeared soon after, last seen being taken away by men dressed in black. No one knows where he went. I don't intend to find out. Emily was devastated at first, but 6 months later, she smiled again. "It's probably better we didn't get married," she said. Now she's looking forward, even talking about starting a family someday, seeing her happiness return. Michael and I finally feel at peace.